Young female footballers from Afghanistan have been given the right to live in the UK after leaving the Taliban-controlled country. I'm Neil, and this is News Review from BBC Learning English. Joining me is Roy. Hello, Roy.
Hello, Neil, and hello, everybody. If you would like to test yourself on the vocabulary around this story, all you need to do is head to our website, bbclearningenglish.com, to take a quiz. But now let's hear more about this story from this BBC News report.
A team of promising young women footballers who fled the Taliban in Afghanistan have been told they can come to live in the UK with their families. The Home Office has said it's finalising visas for 35 members of the Afghan women's development team who are aged between 13 and 19. They're currently staying in a hotel in Pakistan.
Yes, so a group of young female Afghan footballers and their families have been given visas to come and live in the UK. These footballers had left Afghanistan to get away from the Taliban and have been living in Pakistan.
Okay, well, you have been scanning the world's media for this story, and you have picked out some really useful words and expressions. What have you got?
We have resettled, granted, and flee.
Resettled, granted, and flee. So let's have a look at your first headline, please, Roy.
So our first headline comes from the UK, from the Evening Standard, and it reads, Afghan female footballers and families to be resettled in the UK.
Resettled. Forced or helped to move to a different place to live.
Yes. So this word is spelled Resettled. And it means that somebody has been moved by force or from help from one place to another to live. Now, let's first of all look at that word. Right in the middle of that word is the word settle, which means to move somewhere to live. So, for example, my parents, when I was a lot younger, they moved to the Isle of Wight in the south of the UK to live. So they settled on the Isle of Wight. And it's about a choice, you choosing to do something and it being a permanent arrangement. Now, in the word resettled, we have that prefix re, which means again. So, for example, Neil, if you do something once and then you do it again, what do?
You redo it.
Redo it. So you're doing it for a second time again. And the idea of resettled is moving where you were settled in one place, you're living in one place, and then you move to another place, you resettle. Now, it's important to remember this is often that you're helped or you're forced to do that move.
That's right. So, for example, if you live, we looked at a story from the Canary Islands with the volcano a few weeks ago. If a volcano explodes, erupts near you and the lava is flowing towards your house and destroys it, or there are floods, for example, you may have to be resettled. That's moved to a new place. And in that situation, there is something forcing you, a natural disaster, but the authorities are there to help you resettle. In other situations, we can think of, for example, with many indigenous populations around the world, governments force them to move on to new settlements. And that was done by force. So it was not with the best intentions.
No, absolutely not. And you used an interesting word there. You used the word settlement, which is the place where people settle. And the people that do the settling are called settlers.
That's right, yeah. So that word settle in the middle there is the key to all of this.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's get a summary. So we mentioned natural disasters and people having to move. We covered a story a while ago about a flood in Australia in which crocodiles were seen swimming up and down the streets of a town. Where can our viewers find it?
All you need to do is click the link in the description, and I can tell you, if there were crocodiles swimming down my streets, I would want to be resettled immediately.
I'm sure you would. Okay, let's have a look at your next headline.
Okay, so our next headline comes from The National, and it reads, Afghan women's football squad granted UK visas.
Granted. Given something officially.
Yes, so this word is spelled Granted, and it means to be given the permission or the right to do something. So, for example, in this case, these people have been given visas, they have been granted visas. Another good example is you can grant somebody access to a building, you can give that person the permission to enter the building. Or, for example, on computers, if you can't access my file, I can grant you the access. It's about giving the permission.
Okay, Roy, so you said it's like give. So why don't we just use give? What's the difference between grant and give?
Well, yeah, I mean, informally, you could say they've been given visas, but grant is a bit more official. It's a bit more about giving permission to do something. It's an official thing. And it's also has this sort of idea of it being about a favor or helping someone to do something.
That's right, yeah. We see this word grant also as a noun, don't we? And it refers often to financial help.
Yeah, again, that important word there is help, and it's facilitating something to happen. So, a good example of this is maybe if somebody needs help or they don't have access to finances to go to university, they receive a grant. Or maybe a charity or a person receives a grant to do something. It's about being helped, and that idea again of a favor or permission to do something.
Yeah. And there's another expression quite common, isn't there? To take something for granted.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. We hear this a lot, especially parents talking about their children. Oh, he or she takes me for granted. Now, this idea is believing that something is true or it's available without really questioning or asking something. Now, a great example of this, just recently, something's happening in the UK, isn't it, Neil?
That's right, yes. People may have heard that we've had problems with getting petrol in the UK. And so there are queues at petrol stations, or the petrol stations are just empty. And it's a kind of shocking surprise for people here because we take it for granted that there will be petrol when you go to a petrol station.
Yeah, and I can think of another example. In the UK, at the start of the COVID pandemic, I went to the supermarket and the shelves were there was nothing in the supermarket and toilet paper wasn't there. Now, I take for granted that my supermarket will have toilet paper. And I think a lot of people took that for granted. And when the toilet paper wasn't there anymore, it was a big shock.
That's right. Yes, there are many things that we take for granted that perhaps we shouldn't.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get a summary. One of the things that we take for granted is that we will be here forever on this earth, but anyone who takes a step back and looks at us floating in space will realise that actually we're a fragile little place. And space is a theme that we have been looking at in detail at BBC Learning English recently, haven't we, Roy?
Yes, we have indeed. Now, this episode is all about who owns space. Now, I learned a lot from this episode. I found it really interesting. And all you need to do to watch it is click the link in the description.
Okay, let's have a look at our next headline.
Okay, so our next headline comes from The Sun, and it reads, Afghan girls' football team will be allowed to come to Britain to flee the Taliban.
Flee, to leave a place of danger.
Right, so this word is spelled F-L-E-E, and it's about escaping a dangerous situation or something that you're very scared of. So we use it, and it's got this idea of being in panic or chaos. You're running away very, very quickly. We often flee dangerous situations. Now, earlier on, you spoke about that volcano going off in the Canary Islands. A lot of people will have to have fled from that situation. They will have run away, escaped that situation.
Yeah, interesting past tense there you used, Roy. Fled. It's not fleed, it's fled.
Yes, so it's flee, fled, fled. F-L-E-D, fled. Now, obviously, this is for very extreme situations that we use this literally, with volcanoes or very dangerous situations. But we do sometimes use it in an exaggerated sense, don't we? We like to exaggerate with the word flee.
Yeah, so perhaps you're at a party and someone arrives who you just don't want to see, ex-girlfriend, ex-boyfriend, or someone you've had an argument with or something, and you might flee. It means escape that situation because it's uncomfortable for you.
Yeah.
And there's another word which sounds the same but has a completely different meaning, isn't there?
Yes, there is. Now, in the spirit of the homophones that we like to talk about, there is another word spelled F-L-E-A. And this is a small creature that jumps. It does huge jumps. And it usually bites animals or people. It was believed to be responsible for spreading the plague. It was biting people and spreading the plague back in the day. I'm really scared of these creatures. They're making me feel itchy right now.
I'm kind of itchy just thinking about fleas. I would like to flee this situation.
Go for it.
Okay, let's get a summary. Time now for a recap of the vocabulary, please, Roy.
Yes, we had resettled, forced or helped to move to a different place to live. We had granted, given something officially, and we had flee, leave a place of danger.
If you would like to test yourself on the vocabulary you've heard in this programme, go to our website, bbclearningenglish.com. You'll find a quiz and all kinds of other activities. Thanks for joining us, and goodbye.
Bye.